they said, is this dude really the real? Is this dude really the real? I said, he's a welterweight Roy Jones Jr.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, two-time welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, Showtime Shawn Porter. He was asked whether he would see undefeated, rising, welterweight, superstar title contender, JARON Boots Ennis, as a future possible opponent. And Shawn Porter says, absolutely not. He says he does not see himself. He says he will not ever get in the ring with JARON Boots Ennis. And to Shawn Porter's defense, he also said that goes for Vergil Ortiz Jr. He says that, these guys are definitely the future of the sport of boxing. And he had very, very high praise when it came to, JARON Boots Ennis. As you can hear, he says that JARON Boots Ennis is the welterweight Roy Jones Jr. Listen what he had to say.
They say, is this dude really the real? Is this dude really the real? I said, he's a welterweight Roy Jones Jr.
So you heard him, right? He says that he's a welterweight Roy Jones Jr. He said he was asked about, is JARON Boots Ennis truly the real deal? And he says that this was in the second and third round of JARON Ennis's fight, which was considered to be a step-up fight against Sergey Lipinets, former world champion. And he says in the third round, he let it be known that JARON Boots Ennis is the welterweight version of Roy Jones Jr. He can do it all. Now, that's very, very high praise because Roy Jones Jr. was probably the greatest athlete we ever seen in the sport of boxing, okay? Roy Jones was an anomaly in the sport of boxing. He did things in the ring you just could not imagine. Now, Roy Jones may not have technically sound been the greatest boxer, but that his athletic ability, his reflexes, his timing, it made up for every ounce of lack of technical abilities. He just did stuff, as the late great Emmanuel Stewart, legendary trainer, Hall of Famer, he stated that Roy Jones does things you would never teach in a boxing gym. But because he's such a special athlete and such an anomaly within the sport, he gets away with it. JARON Boots Ennis, 27 wins, 25 wins by way of knockout, no losses. He stands at 5'10" with a 74-inch arm reach. He stopped and dominated Sergey Lipinets in his last fight, and this was considered a step-up fight. JARON Ennis is 23 years of age. With that said, Shawn Porter, he says he's never seen somebody that he could actually say has just as good or if not better footwork. Now, that's huge because that I always state the importance of footwork within the sport of boxing, okay? It's very, very important. And he's stating that, and I always state that I believe that Shawn Porter is probably the best athlete in the sport of boxing, and I believe that Shawn Porter has the best feet and the best footwork in the sport of boxing. And I stated when I did my post-fight breakdown of JARON Ennis and Sergey Lipinets, I stated for the first time, I finally saw somebody that I thought have better and quicker and more educated feet than Shawn Porter. And Shawn Porter, he uttered the same sentiments. He stated that he believes it's equal. Now, he didn't want to give him the nod over him. He did state that he would have to dance with him, meaning he would have to fight with him to see if his footwork was actually better than his. But Shawn Porter obviously rates his footwork very high. Shawn Porter, 31 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw, 17 wins by way of knockout. He's 33 years of age, stands at 5'7" with a 69.5-inch arm reach. Last time we saw him in the ring was August of 2020 when he took on Sebastian Familia and got a unanimous decision victory. With that said, Shawn Porter, he stated that he believes JARON Ennis would beat Vergil Ortiz Jr. Now, that's a big fight that everybody's talking about. They're comparing the two, Vergil Ortiz Jr., JARON Boots Ennis. Shawn Porter, he believes that JARON Boots Ennis is a level above Vergil Ortiz. Vergil Ortiz, 17 wins, no losses, 17 wins by way of knockout. Stands at 5'10" with a 70-inch arm reach. He himself is 23 years of age. He just knocked out Maurice Mighty Mo Hooker, who was a former world champion himself. That took place March 20th of 2021. So Shawn Porter says that he believes that JARON Ennis would beat Vergil Ortiz. Shawn Porter also believes that if he fought Cuban WBA star boxer, welterweight world champion Yordenis Ugas, Shawn Porter believes that he'll stop Yordenis Ugas. Okay. He also was asked about the possibility of JARON Boots Ennis possibly fighting 4-division world champion superstar boxer Adrian the Problem Broner. He says he would stop Adrian Broner. He says that Adrian Broner, is very, very durable, but he says not like this. He will not be able to withstand what JARON Boots Ennis is dishing out. So he says that he believes JARON Ennis will stop Adrian Broner and Virgil Ortiz Jr. because he has very, very educated foot speed, foot movement, and foot placement. And I always say that's the most important attribute in the sport of boxing is your foot speed, okay? Because it allows you to get in and out of danger very quickly. It allows you to utilize the ring if you ever find yourself in trouble. It allows you to close the distance if you're dealing with a guy that's rangy. Your foot speed, your foot movement, your foot placement is everything in the sport of boxing. So with that said, Shawn Porter says this is the first guy he's seen in a while that can match him in the foot speed and the foot educated foot department, right? And I agree. We saw JARON Boots Ennis. He just recently called out former unified WBC, WBA welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman. And he believes that he can make an example out of Keith Thurman and put himself in position to get these fights with Shawn Porter, Errol Spence Jr., undefeated unified WBC, IBF welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be top 3 pound-for-pound fighters in the world, and also undefeated 3-division former world champion, who currently is the WBO welterweight world champion, is considered by many to be the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Terrence Bud Crawford. So he says that he knows straight away they won't fight him. But if given the opportunity to fight either Yordenis Ugas or Keith Thurman, and he can make a statement out of either guy, he says that he believes that they'll be forced to fight him, okay? Now, obviously, Yordenis Ugas seems to be off the table as he's going into a unification bout with Errol Spence Jr. So he says that Keith Thurman would be the most viable option. Keith Thurman is looking to make a name for himself back in, to make another announcement, acclimate himself to the upper echelon in the welterweight division, okay? So he feels like if he can get the Keith Thurman fight and stop Keith Thurman, then that would be a major statement, and they wouldn't have no choice but to fight him, okay? So with that said, Shawn Porter doesn't see many boxers beating JARON Boots Ennis right now, okay? And to compare him to the great Roy Jones Jr. is speaking volumes. A lot of people compare JARON Ennis to Roy Jones Jr., and I always say I don't see it. Roy Jones was an anomaly, okay? Roy Jones' athletic ability is off the charts. I just don't see the comparisons, but I do see athletic. I think Roy Jones was a better athlete. I think he was just quicker. He had quicker twitch fiber muscles. He had faster hands. Roy Jones was probably the fastest boxer in his era, okay, in his time. Maybe of all times. Roy Jones had uncanny hand speed, right? And for his size, Roy Jones is 5'11" with a 74-inch arm reach. Him and that, I can see the comparisons as Boots Ennis is 5'10.5" with a 74-inch arm reach, and Roy Jones is 5'11" with a 74-inch arm reach. So there's a lot of comparisons there, physical, right? Roy Jones finished his career 66-9, 66 wins, 9 losses, 47 wins by way of knockout. He himself was knocked out 5 times. We just saw him do an exhibition bout with legendary former undisputed world champion, iconic superstar Hall of Famer Iron Mike Tyson. Roy Jones is a multi-division world champion himself, okay? Roy Jones started to lose when he went up a heavyweight and challenged John Ruiz, and he won that fight. And then Roy Jones came back down from heavyweight and lost all that muscle mass, came back down to light heavyweight. He beat Antonio Tarver, but you can see he just wasn't the same guy. He beat John Ruiz back in 2003, March of 2003, unanimous decision to become a heavyweight world champion. Then he came back down to unification bout against Antonio Tarver, and he beat Antonio Tarver majority decision, but it was a very close fight, and some people thought Tarver won the fight. Then in an immediate rematch, Roy Jones Jr. was knocked out by Antonio Tarver. He just simply didn't let his body recover and acclimate from coming down from heavyweight to back to 175. So Roy Jones He just, he went up to, 200 plus pounds to fight a heavyweight. And then he came back down, lost 25 pounds of muscle to go back down to light heavyweight at 175 and try to compete there. And it just worked against him. He was knocked out by Tarver. Then he was knocked out by Glenn Johnson. Then he lost the unanimous decision to Tarver, 3 straight losses. He did go back on a 3-fight winning streak, beat Trinidad in that 3-fight winning streak. Then he lost to Joe Calzaghe. He just never was the same guy, after he did so. But Roy Jones, I can see the physical comparisons, from JARON Boots Ennis and Roy Jones. But just the athletic ability, I believe that Roy Jones was just a little more athletic. He was just quicker, quicker twitch fiber muscles. I just believe that Roy Jones, was a better athlete. But I can see the comparisons now. And Shawn Porter sees him very well. He says he's the Roy Jones of our era. And he's the welterweight division. He says that, he can do absolutely everything in the ring. And it's scary because he's only 23 years of age. So he doesn't see many guys beating him. He even believes that he can compete with Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. Now, you don't know if he could beat him. That's the same thing I said, because they're more experienced. But you put him in the ring, physically, he definitely can compete with them. So Shawn Porter says, I'm never getting in the ring with JARON Boots Ennis. So let's see what's next for JARON Boots Ennis. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notification. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
Hey, this is Ebony Bridges, Blonde Bomber, and you're watching Blue Blood Sports TV.